What if I told you that a civilization, once so advanced, so brilliant, and so powerful, simply vanished, leaving behind only ruins, mysteries, and unanswered questions? The Maya, builders of towering pyramids, masters of astronomy, and creators of an incredibly complex written language, thrived for centuries in Mesoamerica. And then, almost suddenly, they disappeared. No cataclysmic volcano, no invading empire, just gone. So, what really happened to the Maya? And why has their disappearance baffled historians and scientists for centuries? Stay with me, because what we're about to uncover isn't just history. It's a story of ambition, survival, and the fragile balance of civilizations. Long before the Spanish set foot in the Americas, the Maya were building cities that rivaled those of the ancient world. Imagine cities with towering stone pyramids, sprawling plazas, and intricate palaces, all without iron tools, the wheel, or even draft animals. By 250 CE, during what historians call the Classic Period, the Maya civilization flourished across what is now southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and parts of Honduras and El Salvador. Cities like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan became centers of art, politics, and religion. Their rulers were considered divine, intermediaries between the gods and the people. Kings would oversee massive construction projects, maintain complex calendars, and even wage wars to expand their influence. And yet, for all this brilliance, the seeds of collapse were quietly being sown. It wasn't one event. It was a combination of pressures, both human and environmental, that would eventually bring their world crashing down. One of the most compelling explanations for the Maya collapse is environmental stress. The Maya were dependent on maize, corn as a staple crop, along with beans, squash, and chili. But their cities were growing faster than the land could sustain them. Deforestation for farmland and construction led to soil erosion, while water sources became unreliable. And then came the droughts. Paleoclimatic studies, using sediment cores and cave formations, reveal a series of prolonged droughts in the 9th century. These weren't just dry seasons. They were devastating, multi-year droughts that crippled agriculture. Water scarcity led to crop failures, malnutrition, and widespread famine. Imagine entire cities, once bustling with life, struggling to feed their population. Farmers could no longer rely on rain-fed crops, and reservoirs ran dry. But environmental pressures alone don't fully explain it. Humans weren't passive. They made choices, some of which may have made the situation worse. The Maya population may have reached several million at its peak, supporting that many people required highly organized societies and intensive agriculture. But overpopulation brought social strain. As resources dwindled, competition for land and food intensified. Cities that had once thrived peacefully began to see internal conflicts and increased warfare. Evidence from skeletal remains shows signs of malnutrition and violent injuries. This was a civilization under pressure. The very social structures that had allowed the Maya to build monumental cities now began to crumble. Kings and nobles were unable to maintain control, and public faith in rulers, who were supposed to protect the people and appease the gods, began to waver. Maya cities were not united under one empire. Each city-state operated independently, ruled by its own dynasty. Alliances and rivalries shifted constantly. When resources became scarce, these rivalries often turned deadly. Archaeologists have found evidence of raids, fortified walls, and mass graves, suggesting that warfare intensified in the centuries leading up to the collapse. Leaders struggled to maintain authority. Rituals and ceremonies, once meant to secure divine favor, may have failed to bring the rain or the crops, further undermining public confidence. It's a haunting thought. A people who had once mastered mathematics, astronomy, and engineering were now trapped in a cycle of famine, warfare, and political collapse. While we often focus on environmental and political factors, disease likely played a role in the Maya decline as well. Dense populations, malnutrition, and poor sanitation created ideal conditions for epidemics. Though we don't have direct records of specific plagues, skeletal remains reveal increased disease and early death during the late Classic period. Illness, combined with famine and conflict, would have made survival even more precarious. Imagine entire communities weakened, unable to farm, defend themselves, or sustain the complex rituals that had kept society cohesive. It's a slow, painful unraveling, less dramatic than a volcanic eruption, but just as deadly over time. By the 9th century, many southern cities, including Tikal and Köpen, were abandoned. Temples fell into ruin, palaces were deserted, and roads overgrown with jungle. Northern cities like Chichen Itza and Uxmal continued to flourish for a while, but even they eventually declined centuries later. Archaeologists call this phenomenon the Maya collapse, a gradual abandonment rather than a single catastrophic event. No city fell in a vacuum. It was a regional decline, influenced by intertwined environmental, social, and political factors. And while the cities were abandoned, the Maya people themselves didn't vanish. Descendants still live in the region today, preserving language, culture, and traditions. Modern archaeology, combined with climate science, has shed new light on this mystery. Researchers analyze tree rings, cave formations, and lake sediments to reconstruct rainfall patterns. They study pollen and soil samples to understand ancient agriculture. DNA from ancient skeletons reveals health, disease, and migration patterns. What emerges is a complex picture. The Maya collapse wasn't due to a single cause. It was a perfect storm of environmental stress, overpopulation, political fragmentation, warfare, famine, and disease. In other words, the Maya were victims of both nature and human choices, an important lesson for civilizations, past and present. The story of the Maya is more than an archaeological puzzle, it's a cautionary tale. It reminds us that even the most advanced civilizations are vulnerable to environmental change, resource mismanagement, and social upheaval. It's easy to look at the Maya as a distant society, lost to time. But consider the modern world. Growing populations, deforestation, climate change, the risks are not so different. The Maya collapse shows how progress can be fragile and how resilience requires foresight, adaptation, and balance. Popular culture often portrays the Maya as mysteriously disappearing, fueling myths about curses, aliens, or sudden apocalyptic events. The reality is far more human and far more fascinating. They didn't vanish overnight. They adapted, struggled, and migrated. Many communities continued to thrive in smaller settlements. Their disappearance from the grand cities was a transformation, not extinction. A reminder that history is rarely as simple as legend makes it seem. When Spanish explorers arrived in the 16th century, they found jungles covering abandoned cities. They marveled at the stone pyramids, carved stele, and sprawling plazas, often unaware that they were standing on the ruins of a once great civilization. Today, the Maya legacy survives in language, textiles, agriculture, and astronomy. Their calendars, complex glyphs, and architectural ingenuity continue to inspire awe and wonder. The story of the Maya is a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder that even the greatest civilizations can be challenged by forces beyond their control. So, why did the Maya civilization suddenly disappear? Not suddenly at all, really. It was a gradual unraveling, driven by drought, famine, social tension, and political collapse, a complex interplay of nature and human choice. Yet their legacy lives on, in the descendants who still inhabit the region, and in the ruins that whisper secrets of a civilization that reached for the stars. The Maya didn't vanish. They transformed, leaving behind lessons etched in stone, and a mystery that continues to captivate the world. And perhaps, in understanding their story, we can better navigate our own fragile world before history repeats itself.